I'm a Winter Park resident, and my nanny is missing. This is what's unusual. Is her purse is here.
Okay.
Her car's gone, her purse is here, and nobody's heard anything from her since 11.
September 27th, 2017, 911 received a call from Reed Berman, informing them the nanny he employed was missing. That day had been a normal day, he would explain. That morning, Jennifer Fulford had dropped his son off to school, then returned to his house, where they both talked about the day's plans. She had a scheduled dentist appointment that day at 9 a.m., then had to meet an art framer at Reed's house, and was meant to do general household tasks before picking up Reed's son from school at 3:30 p.m. Reed had to attend a meeting, so he was shocked when, at 4 p.m., his son's school phoned him saying that Jennifer had never picked up his son from school. He went to collect Oliver from school, and they both got home at 5 p.m. Reed Berman and his son, Oliver, lived in the affluent and wealthy area of Winter Park, Florida. He was a single dad who employed Jennifer as a nanny and his housekeeper for the last 7 years. He knew she was always reliable, did her job amazingly, got on well with him and his son, and was the perfect employee. So when he got home that day at 5 p.m., seeing she wasn't in the home and knowing she didn't pick up his son, he knew instantly something was wrong. He looked around his house and found her bag sitting next to the toilet and found the toilet seat was left up. Although her bag was there, her wallet, driver's license, and phone and credit cards were missing. Her car was also gone. By 6:25, Reed called 911. Police immediately started investigating Jennifer's disappearance. They contacted her husband, Robert, and her children. None of them had seen or heard from her. Her husband, who didn't want to sit by and do nothing, began trying to do his own investigation. Searching through her bank records, he found that the payment for her dental appointment had been paid at 10:08 a.m. The next thing that caught his eye was an ATM withdrawal for $300, the maximum amount allowed to be withdrawn. He then sent information about the $300 cash withdrawal and the data of her car's location to detectives, as it had a device inside it called Blue Link. Investigators pulled up CCTV from the ATM and found the withdrawal had been made by a man, who returned again later that day to take out more money, but he was unsuccessful. When her employer, Reed, was shown CCTV images of the man, he said the top he was wearing seemed similar to one he owned himself. Jennifer's car was found the next day in a car park, with alcohol inside it along with a bag that had a white top, towel, and men's watch inside, all stained with blood. The day after this, another withdrawal was made using her bank card for $100, at a location 140 miles away. Sadly, Jennifer's body was located 3 days later in a wooded area. Investigators managed to locate their suspect and arrested him from the motel he was staying at in Jacksonville, Florida. He was then interrogated.
Scott, it's Nelson, right? N-E-L-S-O-N?
Yes.
Okay. How old are you? Can I call you Scott or Mr. Nelson? What do you prefer?
Scott's fine.
Scott's? Okay. How old are you, Scott?
I'm 53.
What's your date of birth?
2/28/64.
Ask away. Go ahead.
I'm under arrest.
Yes.
What are my charges?
Okay. Right now we got some issues with some credit card use. Okay. So I'd like to go into that. All right. And,
okay.
And you know, there's always two sides to every story. You understand that, and that's why we're talking to you, because you know obviously there's two sides to every story, and I'd like to hear what you have to say.
What credit card? Because I don't own a credit card.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get into that in a little bit.
Okay.
Bear with me. Let me get through some of this stuff, and then we'll go right into that. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Credit card?
No.
Do you have a debit card? ATM card?
I'm trying to think. I think I do.
Okay. What do you think you do? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, what? I don't have enough information. I mean,
As I said, well, let's walk through it. Okay?
Sure, okay.
All right. So, do you have any idea why you think you may be here at all?
No.
No? Okay. Well, let's go back a little bit. Sergeant Psychopath from Winter Park PD. I'm from Orlando Police Department. Okay, you're here in Jacksonville. You were in Orlando last week?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How long had you been in Orlando for?
About 4 months.
4 months? Okay. Where did you come from? Where were you before you got to Orlando?
Prison.
Okay, so you got out of prison, you came right to Orlando?
Yes.
Okay. Were you in prison in Florida, or were you in prison somewhere else?
Somewhere else. Federal.
Okay. All right. No
Sure.
big deal. Nothing. That's no big deal. What made you come to Orlando?
It's just where they assigned me to.
Oh, for probation?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're doing some federal probation time?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And so you were assigned to Orlando, so you got to Orlando.
Which is now in violation, but...
Because you're in Jacksonville?
Right.
Okay.
Well, been arrested. That does it probably more.
Okay. Where were you staying in Orlando?
With the mission,
Which one?
West Central.
The rescue mission over there? Right by the old police station?
Yes.
They're ripping that thing down. Have you seen it?
It's tough.
It's crazy, right? Yeah. Alright, so you're at the rescue mission. How did you like the rescue mission? Was it okay?
Yeah. I mean, no one really wants to be there.
No.
But,
Were they pretty strict?
yeah, very, very much so. Will I have an attorney coming in here?
That's totally up to you. You tell me. I mean...
Oh, yeah. No problem.
What would you like?
I think, since I've been arrested, I think I'd like an attorney present to speak.
Okay.
56-year-old Scott Nelson had been released from prison the previous May, and in the months leading up to the murder, he had been homeless. He became enraged, with anger building up each day, that residents of Winter Park were wealthy and affluent, whereas he was poor and homeless, and as Scott said that he had been mistreated all of his life, so wanted to make a random person suffer, to basically punish rich people and the prison system as he blamed them all for his own problems. While living on the streets, he came up with a plan to do a home invasion on one of the affluent houses in Winter Park and went to Walmart, where he bought a knife, cable ties, and duct tape. 11 days later, he knocked on a door and Jennifer answered. He got into the home, somehow overpowered Jennifer, put her into her own car and drove away with her. Jennifer had her own credit card and the bank card of her employer, Reed, but she only gave Scott Nelson her own credit card, leaving Reed's bank card safe. After driving around with Jennifer in the boot of her car, he took her to a secluded wooded area, tortured her before stabbing her. He then left her there and drove away and bought pizza, as she lay dying. In his original police interrogation, Scott didn't give any information on what he did to Jennifer, but he was charged with her murder and booked into jail as he awaited his trial. He wrote detectives a letter from prison, prompting them to come and interview him again. He then recounts the whole events to them.
My only regret is that I hadn't killed 30 more sons of later. I was thrown to the street again, and I had nowhere to live. I was completely broke. And what happened there was I noticed that it's a very affluent type of place. Yeah. It is. People have a lot of money and things like this. And people are dead ass broke. Yeah. I wasn't particularly happy with this. Winter Park, I'm surrounded by all this wealth. And here I am, right? I'm clean cut, I'm intelligent, I'm highly employable, I work like a dog, and I can't have nothing. I'm just dead. Okay. So I knew that I was going to do that. Okay. I noticed this one house, and it was happened to be 5 o'clock, I'd say 5 o'clock in the afternoon on the 26th, and I see Jennifer getting out of a vehicle with a young boy. Okay. And they go into the house. And I could tell just by the way she was dressed that she was not the first thing I had in my head was she must be a house cleaner or something of that nature. Okay. But I wanted to make an example of Winter Park. Right. I rang the doorbell, and Jennifer answered, and I said to her, they have a package on the doorstep here. And she said, yeah, I know. And she was looking at me a little odd, like, who are you? Why are you telling me this? And that's when I pushed the door in and pushed it in. I went and shut the door, and she screamed. Okay. And she was, frightened. Sure. And I had a knife. So I told her to lay down on the floor, and then I bound her with some zip ties. Okay. I said, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just here for the money. Okay. And she was not very helpful with my needs. She probably never told many lies in her whole life.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, she runs into a bad guy, and now she wants to lie on her. Kind of cold-blooded, isn't it?
You're showing the amount of compassion that you got shown is what it sounds like to me.
So now we have Jennifer in the back of the vehicle, and I have $300, and now what do I do with her?
Right.
So now I'm driving, trying to find a place to find Jennifer, where I can put her. You know, and she's telling me, you know, throughout this whole experience, even in the house, she says, I'm really afraid you're going to kill me.
Right.
Please don't kill me.
Right.
In all reality, I'm having a hard time having compassion because I've been brutalized for so many years that I don't even know what compassion is anymore. I got her out of the vehicle, and she started getting louder and louder, so I put some duct tape.
Could she breathe with the tape
Barely.
put on her face?
Very little. She's pleading for her life.
Did you ever hit her in the head, or did she ever hit her head on the ground or anything like that?
Back of her head?
Yeah.
Yes, I punched her.
When?
Prior to duct taping her up. I stabbed her 3 times that I didn't remember.
Remember where?
Yeah, once in the back, another time in the back, and then the third time I was walking away, and I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not going to let this testify against me. Because they're going to give me the same amount of time. So I killed her. I put one through her heart. She had put me away for the rest of my life anyway. So, I mean, so I killed her. And she let out a gasp. And that was it. And she died. I called it the blood pizza.
Okay.
Because the reason why I called it that is because I ordered the pizza and I bought a beer with the highest level of grace that I could muster. I was actually proud of what I did because of that. After all the years that I've been kicked in the face by the Federal Bureau of Prisons and all the years that not attaching my colostomy and all the years of getting beat up and tormented and everything, I finally had a certain level of self-respect. I finally made someone pay for all the that I've been through. And so I took my blood pizza because somebody died for me to get this pizza. Walking down the street while all these rich people are walking around buying jewelry and they're having their good life and all this stuff and wouldn't give a rat's about me. And so I'm carrying my pizza. Little do these bastards know what I had to do for this friggin' pizza.
Yeah.
And I walked back up to that gazebo and I ate that pizza, every bite of it, and I enjoyed every damn bite of it. And I really did. And I hope, my only regret is that I hadn't killed 30 more sons of like her. Probation officer came in and he premeditatedly and deliberately went in to sabotage it and blow it up. So,
Really?
oh, yes, sir. The probation officer did everything he could in his power as a man. He woke up that morning just as premeditated as I did.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew what I was going to do. All right. I needed money.
Okay.
And I did what I had to do to survive.
Okay.
All right. He did what he had to put me in that position.
Scott Nelson says he was driven to murder a random person because of how he was treated in prison and because he was jealous that people were rich whereas he was homeless, and blamed most of this on the prison system and his probation officer, who he later claimed made him lose his job when he left prison. His trial began in June 2019. After testimonies from both sides, Scott was allowed to take the stand. He first talks about what he went through in prison.
All right, Ms. Warren.
Mr. Nelson, can you state your name for the record, please?
Scott Edward Nelson.
Okay. And Mr. Nelson, you were incarcerated in the Federal Bureau of Prisons more than once, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you remember your entrance date or your first time, the date that you first went into prison?
I believe it was in January of 1995.
Okay. And how long were you in prison during that incarceration?
Until October 29th, 2008.
When did you return to incarceration?
After that, it was July of 2009.
And how long were you incarcerated at that time?
Until November of 2010.
And were you incarcerated again after that?
11 days later, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so from November of 2010 until when were you released?
December 19th of 2016.
Okay. In court so far, we've heard a lot about what the records show and what you have told previous experts about your experience in prison. But there are some additional things that you think it's important for the jury to know. Is that right?
I think it would be fair, yeah.
Okay. While you were in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, can you tell us about incidents in which the sprinkler system or fire alarms were purposefully turned on?
Yeah, that's a very common occurrence in the special housing unit or segregated housing unit. It's basically a unit with hundreds of inmates, most of which are 2 men per cell. And there's hundreds of them. And people get frustrated. The officers like to be devious and play games, aggravate. It's part of their job. It's part of deterrence. It's part of what they're trained to do, get the inmates going. So in retaliation, many inmates will break the sprinklers. I've never done that myself.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but when the sprinklers are broken, can you sort of explain what happens?
Certainly. For the first several minutes, black water, fire retardant, comes out of these sprinkler systems in order to stop the fire. But then hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of gallons of water continue to flow, as well as the fire alarm is an ear-shattering, piercing sound that they keep going for up to 4, 5, 6 hours. Even though they know there's no fire, they keep as part of your punishment for someone having done this. Of course, it floods your cell, and it floods my cell and everyone else's cell. So you're ankle deep in fire retardant, dirty water, and a lot of inmates flush their toilets. Feces, urine is mixed in with the mush, and you're ankle deep in that stew, and you're stuck there for upwards of 24 hours until you pick up the mess.
So in your experience at the Federal Bureau of Prisons, when that would happen, you had to clean it up yourself. Is that accurate?
Oh, absolutely.
Were you provided any sort of cleaning supplies or protective gloves or anything like that?
Never.
Okay. Something else that you thought was important was interactions with the SORT team.
Right.
Is that correct? Can you tell us about that?
The SORT team is a Special Operations Response Team. And basically, they dress up like football players in riot gear, and they'll run into a cell if they don't shoot you with a pepper ball gun, just like a paintball gun, but it shoots pepper gas. And it bruises your skin and does all kind of damage to you, and it chokes you. And, it's in order to quell a unruly or violent inmate. But that's not always the case. Sometimes they use it for other reasons as well.
If your cellmate was being unruly or violent and they decided to do this, would you be affected by those pepper balls?
Yeah, whatever your cellmate does, you're riding with him because you're just as culpable as he is. No matter what he does, you can be a saint, and whatever punishment he gets, you're getting because you're in the cell.
There was another incident in which you were locked in a cell in Leavenworth, which is a facility. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. There's actually been books written about this one particular unit in the oldest, or one of the oldest penitentiaries in America, Leavenworth, Kansas. I think a lot of people have heard that name before. The Hot House, the book is. There's no fans, there's no air conditioning, and there's no heat. It's Kansas. It's very, very hot in the summertime there, and very, very cold in the winter. And in the unit, there's pigeons, hundreds of pigeons flying around the unit. And of course, there's feces all over the windows. Cockroaches everywhere, rats, the size of hamsters. The cops brutalize the inmates on the regular. I was up on the 5th tier, so there's no windows, there's nothing. It's 120 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. And the treatment that you receive is brutal.
You also indicated that let me ask you this. There was a long period of time where you were kept in special house or segregated housing units. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you saw when Mr. Gravett showed us the diagram. Is that right?
It's very accurate of the Florence, Colorado.
Okay. And
Florence, Colorado, U.S. Penitentiary.
that would have been one of the places that you were kept in segregation. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And when you were in segregation, were there times where you were in the unit entirely alone?
Yes.
Were there times when you had one cellmate?
Yes.
Were there times when you had two cellmates?
Yes.
So there were times when there was a total of 3 people within the confines of what we saw in that diagram. Is that right?
Absolutely, for months at a time.
The details of his previous incarcerations are some of the reasons he gave for committing a murder for what he experienced in prison. He then gets questioned about murdering Jennifer Fulford.
From the Federal Bureau of Prisons on December the 19th, 2016. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
And that was to a halfway house in Orlando, or in this area.
Yes, sir.
Now, ultimately, you were employed in Orlando, weren't you?
Employed? Yeah,
You got a job, didn't you?
many, many months later.
Okay, you worked for about 6 weeks, I think it was, right? And that was painting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you were provided with a place to live, weren't you?
Provided, I was given charity.
And that was a dry place to sleep, wasn't it?
Well, showering with a garden hose in the alley. Yeah, I guess you could say it was a dry place.
So you were somewhere inside, out of the elements when you went to sleep at night, weren't you, sir?
It wasn't raining on me, I could say. Yes.
And you lived there for about 6 weeks, didn't you?
Yep.
And you ultimately left that employment about September the 5th, didn't you?
You're object to outside scope of direct.
I'll overrule the objection to that particular question.
Because of my federal probation officer.
Okay, and what did your federal probation officer do that caused you to leave employment on September the 5th of 17?
You're going to object to outside scope of direct.
I'll overrule the objection to that question.
Well, what federal probation officers do is they're supposed to drug test you. And he drug tested me to see if I was dirty. I was never dirty. And he even said that, you're allowed 5 dirties. I'll give you 5 dirties, Nelson, to trying to get you on drugs. Anyway, so he shows up at my work because he has to verify where I work and where I live. I was released out of Seminole County Jail. I had no clothes, no shoelaces, no colostomy changes. I had no money, no family, no friends, no nothing. I'm walking down the street with nothing. The federal supervised release officers, the court didn't even know I was released from jail. Out of the righteousness, I show up at their doorstep.
You're going to object to narrative non-responsive.
And what's the question?
The objection.
So I ended up going to the federal building and said, "Hey, guys, I'm here." And they were like, couldn't believe I was actually there. I mean, they're like, so my federal supervised release says, what are you going to do? And he helped me over at the shelter, get in there. So now I'm in the shelter, been there about 2 months, walking around the streets of Orlando, Florida with nothing, no money, no connections, no nothing. The Federal Bureau of Prisons, out of the kindness of their heart, didn't forward my birth certificate and Social Security card, which I paid for, which I should have had, which is my right to have, but they decided to lose it on me. Of course, sending someone to the street with nothing, with a colostomy, with a felon, and now no ID, no identity on top of it. I mean, is there any other way you can make it possibly harder? I mean, there's no other way. Okay, but that's what they do. I mean, they're good at it. Until days like this where I get to say something and people listen. And I can prove everything I'm saying. So anyway, the probation officer, this wonderful man by the name of Julio Dominguez. Oh, he's such a charming man. Good bona fide federal employee. So he decides to show up at my work. Now, you see, I'm supposed to admit to my employer that I'm a felon, which I did. In application and in verbal interview, I said, I've been convicted of armed bank robbery. That's it. That's as far as I needed to. I satisfied the law. And I made the mistake of being honest with Mr.
I'll sustain the objection.
After you told your employer that you had been convicted of bank robbery, what did you do next?
I informed my probation officer that I've found a place to live, and I found employment. And ironically, it's the same place.
Okay. So your employer gave you somewhere to live?
Yeah.
Okay. And you lived there for about 6 weeks, didn't you?
Right.
And you were getting paid, weren't you?
I received 2 checks.
You got your last check on September the 15th, didn't you, of 2017?
Apologies, I've been objecting to outside scope of direct.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
When did you receive your last check, Mr. Nelson?
Your Honor, that's the same question, same
I'll
objection.
sustain the objection.
Did you receive your final paycheck?
Your Honor, again, essentially same question, same objection.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Were you compensated completely for your work that you performed over this 6-week period?
Same objection, Judge, still outside scope of direct.
I'll overrule the objection to that question.
The answer, can you give me the question again?
Were you compensated completely for the work you performed over this 6-week period working for the individual who gave you a job?
No, sir, I was not.
So your contention is you are still owed money.
I still am.
How much money do you believe you are still owed, sir?
Your Honor, again, outside scope of direct.
Overruled.
$150, I'd say.
Now, sir, you talked about when you were in the Bureau of Prisons that on occasion inmates would set off the sprinklers or the fire suppression system in the cell block. Do you recall that?
I was just wondering what happened to Jose Dominguez. I think people would like to know what happened.
Oh, okay. Tell me about Mr. Dominguez. What happened to Mr. Dominguez?
Well, Mr. Dominguez showed up at my job, and it was on a Saturday afternoon, and I was working. Imagine, by the way, I would work from 5 in the morning until 10 p.m. at night, nonstop.
What kind of job was this?
It was, what kind of job didn't I do? From reconditioning vehicles to cleaning to painting to cooking to making coffee to, I was a slave, sir. They used me, and the only reason they gave me a place to live is because I was a workaholic. And I worked myself to death in order to have this existence because I'm trying to survive and abide the law. And here I am working. They gave me the grace because you're a felon and you can stay here and we'll work here. And everything was in harmony. Everything was peaceful until Mr. Dominguez, the federal employee, shows up and walks up to the owner and he says, I need to talk to him alone. And the next day he came down.
I'm sorry, wait a minute. Mr. Dominguez shows up and says, I need to talk to him alone. Who is he wanting to talk to alone?
The owner.
Okay, I'm sorry. I wasn't quite clear about the pronoun there.
problem.
So go ahead, sir.
So he talked to the owner and he launched off into what he said. He explained to him that, hey, he's not just here for armed bank robbery, he's here for, and he went down the whole laundry list of.
I'll sustain the objection as to the truth of the matter asserted. I'll overrule it to the extent it may have had an effect on the listener.
You can answer, sir. Go ahead.
I get interrupted and it just throws me in kilter. Just blows my mind. So he comes in and he deliberately, premeditatedly, and maliciously, he comes and blows me up in front of the owner. He has a gun, he's leaning on his gun, saying, what are you, crazy? What are you, nuts for letting this guy live here? Do you know this? Down a whole laundry list of crimes and hey, this, that. Dude, I was done. I just went from, they were actually setting another business up for me to manage. I was going to get my license back and I mean, things were going up. I was going from homeless to now, done. I'm done.
You're going to get your license, what license?
Driver's license.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
And that was it. He got me thrown out. You got me canned and thrown out, and that's it.
And about when was this, sir?
The last the last Saturday of August, 2017.
I mean,
Let's
that's
get
how
back-
detectives are. They squeeze you, then they, ba-boom, you get nothing in the end.
Sure.
I mean, it's what you guys do. You're very
Does
good at
that
it.
mean that what you told him about killing Jennifer Fulford was untrue?
No, that is true.
All right. So let's go back to how that occurred.
Julio Dominguez.
We're past that. Let's get back to September 26th of 2017. You're on foot, correct?
Yeah.
You have your duct tape and zip ties and knife with you?
What does this have to do with Julio Dominguez? I mean, if you want to sit here and talk to me and grill me for the next 3 hours, I'm not doing this. I came up here for one reason. Julio Dominguez is the reason Jennifer Lynn Fulford died. That's it. That's all I have to say.
All right.
If you wanted anything more, talk to my lawyers.
Yeah.
That's it.
Your Honor, would the court direct Mr. Nelson to answer the questions of all attorneys, not just his lawyer?
Well, need to.
My memory's getting real foggy right now. I'm
Nelson.
sorry. I must need my
Mr.
medication.
Nelson, don't speak when I'm speaking. Do you understand, sir? Do you understand, sir?
Yes.
Mr. Burdick, ask a question. If there needs to be a pending question that he's refused to answer before I'll direct the witness.
The night before,
Yes.
September 26th of 2017, you're
Right.
on foot?
Yeah.
You have your knife with you?
No.
No duct tape?
No.
No zip ties?
That's not a good way to walk down the streets at night looking like Rambo.
All right.
No.
So you were just doing reconnaissance?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you go onto the Berman property to see if you could get in furtively?
No.
Right? Because your plan was you're going to force your way in.
No, the doorbell works better.
All right? So you're just going to go in the front door if you could make it in that way.
Anybody can. You ring the doorbell. She opened the door and let me in.
All right. But you didn't do it that night.
No.
But you chose Miss Fulford and that house finally. You made the final decision about it that night.
Yes.
Did you force your way into the house with a knife?
I would say, I suggest that you look at the confession. I mean, the one that you played yesterday. That,
Did you force your way into the house?
I don't recall any of this stuff right now, ma'am.
Did you have a knife with you when you went into the house?
Ma'am, you better check the confession. I mean, what more do you want? I mean, did I make it easy enough? It wasn't great police work that got me here. I gave it all to you. Check the confession. You got it.
You told Brian Ferreira and Sharon Wagner that you forced your way into the Berman house at knife point. Was that correct?
Ma'am, I just don't recall.
How long were you in the house?
I don't know. What is the security doors opening and closing? What do they say?
How long do you remember being in the house?
4 hours?
All right. So you had Jennifer Fulford zip tied on the ground in the living room?
No.
Where?
I didn't zip tie her in the house.
Okay. How did you subdue her while you went upstairs?
She did what I said.
Okay. Did she go with you upstairs?
No.
So she just stayed downstairs while you went upstairs and looked in Reed Berman's bedroom
Yeah,
and didn't move?
that's right.
Why didn't she move?
I know. Ask her.
Why didn't she move?
I don't know. Because people do.
Threaten her?
Yes.
Did you threaten the child?
No. How could I? I didn't know who that child was.
All right. Now, she told you someone was coming to the house, right?
I don't recall.
And then you made her call that person back and say, don't come?
I don't recall. I can't remember everything. I mean, I'm not a computer. You look stressed. You're welcome.
May I approach with 187?
Yes?
And get the comforter off the bed so that you could put Jennifer Fulford in it, so that you didn't have to drag her out of the house kicking and screaming?
Reed Berman slept in that bed a couple nights, and he didn't even know the comforter was missing. Maybe he took it. They didn't report
Did
it.
you take the comforter off of the bed so that you could wrap Jennifer Fulford in it because you wanted to conceal her from the outside?
No,
You didn't wrap her in the comforter.
I didn't do that.
Who did it?
I don't know. I didn't do it. Maybe she did. Maybe she was cold.
Say that last line again.
I said maybe she was cold. I don't
On
know.
September 27th. How long have you lived in Florida?
I don't know. She ended up cold.
For Fulford's car, after placing her in the back and drive to the ATM,
Really,
where you withdrew $300 at noon, 12:02.
I'm sorry. I just don't know, ma'am.
Were you in this car?
I don't know.
Did you drive this car from the Berman residence to the ATM?
I think I used that vehicle. I think I did. I showed up to see Julio Dominguez.
Right.
I saw him that day.
And you had taken a bottle of beer from the Berman residence, right?
Terrible beer.
You took it though.
Yeah, I didn't reluctantly.
All right. And drank it and left it in that vehicle?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, after going to the ATM, is Jennifer's in the back in the comforter, right, while you're at the ATM?
I think she was I think she was.
You put her there.
No, I don't recall doing that. No, I don't remember that part.
You said you carried her out of the house.
When? Who did I say that to?
All right.
I didn't say that to you.
Did you say that to law enforcement?
I
Wrapped her in the comforter so that all these people in Winter Park couldn't see what you were up to, so that you could get her into the car, so that you could get money, so that you could abscond from probation and the government oppression that you were suffering. Right? That's what this is all about.
No.
We're in this car.
No.
Never.
Ma'am, that was like 2 years ago. I don't know. I've never even seen that vehicle. I don't even know whose car that is. It's sitting, I don't know who that is. I don't know what you're talking about.
Why'd you choose to drive all the way to Disney, or the Disney area, to take Mrs. Fulford out of the car?
I've never been to Disney.
Disney area, Fulton Street. You weren't on Fulton Street on September 27th of 2017?
I was there.
You drove that car we were just looking at from Winter Park all the way out. Did you go down I-4?
Ma'am, I'm not from Orlando. I don't even know what I-4 is.
You don't know what I-4 is?
I don't, ma'am. I'm
All
not
right.
from Orlando. I'm not from here. I don't have a vehicle.
Did you drive Mrs. Fulford's vehicle with her in the back all the way down to Disney to get rid of her? At that point, you knew you were going to kill her. Right.
Is that two questions or one question?
Answer the first one. We'll get to the second.
Did I drive? Yes, I did.
All the way down. Why there? What were you looking for?
I was looking for a place to dump her. Get rid of her.
Okay.
Next question.
Right. And so as you were driving, you absolutely knew that you weren't just going to leave her in a remote area. You were going to kill her.
No. Now that you're wrong about.
So when you say get rid of her, you mean just drop her off?
Well, yeah, that's what the zip ties were for.
Just drop her off, somehow restrained.
Yes.
If she died, so be it. If she died before somebody found her, so be it.
That's a matter of opinion.
Was that your thinking?
No, that sounds like it's your thinking.
Okay. So while you're in this vehicle driving, you have your kit with you, if you will, of duct tape and zip ties and the knife, because you said she wasn't duct taped in the car.
A lot of what I told those investigators, as the confession went on minute by minute, the more and more BS I would throw into it. Because they were giving me BS, and I was giving it right back to them. That's how that interview went. And that's the truth.
Right. The question is, you had this kit, if you will, of zip ties and duct tape and the knife, right?
Yes.
And as you were traveling, because it's do you remember how long it took? That time of day?
I don't know.
Probably an hour?
I don't know, check the cell towers.
You were there.
I don't know.
You think it was an hour?
I don't know. I'm not good at keeping track of time.
All right. Make a decision that this wouldn't be the right place to get rid of Mrs. Fulford?
What do you mean by get rid of?
Kill her?
No.
Drop her off?
I had no
duct
intent.
tape and zip tie her?
Miss Burdick, I really think you have this all wrong. I never intended to kill that woman. It was not in my heart to do that. It wasn't what I had planned. I didn't want to kill that woman. She'd never done anything to me.
Right. So you drove her, though, all the way to Disney in the back of her vehicle for a purpose.
Yes.
It wasn't just for no reason, correct?
Yeah, you're right.
And you were searching for places to leave her.
Yes.
So then you find what you think, even though it's the middle of the day, is a relatively remote area, right?
Yes.
And you park the car on the dirt road?
Yes.
You pull into the field at all?
No.
Stayed on the dirt road.
Yes.
So you get out, and do you go to the back and open up the hatch?
Yes.
And she is in the back, wrapped in the comforter.
I don't recall, ma'am.
What do you say to her? Get out?
Ma'am, you're asking for specifics that I really, honestly, legitimately, truthfully, from my heart, I do not remember. I don't remember all those facts.
So you don't remember how Jennifer Fulford got out of the car?
We were picking a jury a few days ago. I can't remember some of that. And this is 2 years ago.
The question was, you don't remember how Jennifer Fulford got out of the car?
There's something wrong with my brain.
Did you have her duct taped at the ankles and zip tied behind her back while she was in the car?
I don't know. Check the medical examiner's report. They can't determine either.
Right. Well, you're the one who put the duct tape on the ankles, no question, right?
I don't know.
You're the one that put the zip ties on her wrists.
I don't know.
You're the one who dropped the zip tie at the tree line, right?
I don't know. You want the truth? I'll give you the truth. So help me God. I don't remember. I can't remember everything. There's something wrong with my brain.
So when you open up the back of this hatch to the Hyundai, she's making a lot of noise, pleading for her life. You have to remember that.
I heard it yesterday. Where did I hear it? Oh, I heard it on the recording of the confession. How can you give out sheets of paper and tell them not to, whatever. But anyway.
You have to remember her begging for her life.
No, I really don't.
All right. So you remembered that in November of 2017 and told that to the detectives, but you can't remember it now.
It's been 2 years.
Okay.
Lots happened in 2 years. I've been abused a lot. We all get abused, don't we?
All right. And you have to remember that Jennifer was crying.
No, I don't. I don't remember that. No, she wasn't.
Begging you not to kill her?
I don't remember.
That she continued to get louder and louder, so you decided to duct tape her whole head? Not just her mouth, not just her eyes, her whole head.
Sustain the objection to the form.
Ma'am, Miss Burdick,
I sustain the objection, Mr. Newman.
Are you saying you don't remember?
I don't remember, ma'am.
All right.
What was going on, ma'am, was that at that point, I was not in the right state of mind. And when I get to that point, like when corrections abuses you or does things to you, it gets me in that state of mind where, you know, that you just can't see things clearly and you just don't understand things. And you do things that you really don't want to do or understand why you do them. And that's where 25 years in custody has brought me.
So
I've been
the
through horrible experiences.
pending question is, did Jennifer Fulford get out of that car under her own power, meaning did she walk? Or did you carry her?
I'm sorry, I can't give you.
All right, because you recall being ripped up by the briars that were in that patch of woods, right?
I think she was fighting or something. And we ended up getting, yeah.
You remember being ripped up yourself
Yeah,
by the
yeah, I do.
briars? That's what, we saw those pictures taken of you.
Yeah, I saw
on
them
October
yesterday.
1st.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
remember those injuries?
Yes,
All right, to the exposed parts of your skin, because you had shorts on,
yes, ma'am.
right?
Yeah.
And so you walk through there, you get scraped up. Did she walk or did you carry her?
She walked, ma'am.
All right, so her ankles were not duct taped until you got her into the open field.
I'm sorry, I can't remember everything. I'm being as helpful as I can for you, but I don't remember, ma'am.
All right. While you're out there, you decide she's going to testify against you.
Well,
If she gets out of here, she's going to testify against me, right? And
that's something that was said during the interview. That was towards the very end, and I was doing it because I was getting some really good visuals from Detective Wagner. She was, you know, and I started, they were jerking me, so I just gave it back to him. So a lot of that was just, you know, just to amuse myself and watch her.
Unresponsive.
Overrule the objection.
See, you were trying to make Detective Wagner squirm? Was that your goal?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right.
I mean, you know,
Aside from whatever tactics you were using on Detective Wagner, could you tell us if Jennifer Fulford had duct tape over her eyes as you walked her out to the field?
She did not.
So she could see where she was?
That's correct.
That she was terrified?
I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, ma'am, she has I don't know how many stab wounds on her body and stuff. And I'm going to look you in the eye and I'm going to tell you something. I don't remember doing all that.
All right. The pending question was, did she appear to you to be terrified?
It's been asked and answered.
I'll overrule the objection.
I mean, I'm sure she wasn't happy.
Okay.
I mean, how? You know,
Screaming?
no.
Begging you not to kill her?
No.
You've had a knife this whole time, right? That knife we saw? That green and black knife?
How are you supposed to carry someone and carry a knife at the same time? Or how are you supposed to, I mean.
Was it in your pocket?
I think I left it in the vehicle. And then I had to go back and get it, I guess.
All right, so she's out in the field, and you have her duct taped and zip tied, face down, and then you need to eliminate her as a witness.
Ma'am, that was something I said to Miss Wagner to get her ire. At that point, that was deep into the confession pseudo interview.
I'm not asking.
Yeah.
I'm asking
sorry.
you
Yes, ma'am.
a direct question about, you were out in the field. Tell us, did you have her face down, bound, while you went and got your knife? At some point, did you have to turn her over one way or another to complete what you had brought her there for?
Ma'am, I never brought her anywhere to kill her. That's something you're trying to
Why'd you put her in the field?
Should I have dropped her off in front of OPD?
Why'd you put her in the field?
Asked and answered.
Overruled.
To leave her there. Not to kill her, to leave her there.
To leave her there. Why did you bind her hands behind her back?
I would imagine so that she couldn't leave.
Why did you bind her feet with duct tape?
I imagine so she wouldn't walk away.
And why did you wrap her entire head in the duct tape?
Probably so she couldn't scream.
Okay. Why did you wrap it so tightly that she couldn't breathe?
I didn't do it that tightly.
So
It wasn't my intent.
But your intent clearly was
To subdue.
leave a bound woman in the middle of nowhere and then go back to Mr. Berman's house and maybe hold him hostage to see if you can get some money out of him.
Oh, I would have.
Well, that was part of your plan, right?
Yes, but not to hurt that woman. And I didn't leave her in the middle of nowhere. There was a house within walking distance. It was a couple 100 feet. There was a
Why
home.
don't you just leave her at the house?
Oh, that would have been kind of foolish, wouldn't it? Why didn't I just give her a cell phone?
Right. If you were just planning to leave her somewhere, you were planning to get rid of her,
No.
correct?
I used that word.
Answered.
I used that.
I'm sustaining the objection to asked and answered. That particular.
All right, you said you used those words.
Yeah, to get rid of. Yeah, but not to kill.
So your interpretation is just,
Your interpretation of rid and kill is the same thing. Mine's different.
I'm asking you, your interpretation of getting rid of her is simply to leave her there in the state we've described.
Yes.
So after this happened, you took her car and drove to the Publix, correct?
Yeah, I've seen the photos of me going in and out.
You changed clothes in the car, right?
I have no idea. Just try for a moment. Try to put yourself in my situation at that point. I mean, would you remember any of this?
Went across the street, put the keys in that bush, and...
That you would never have found without me?
Jumped, right. And jumped on the bus. Took the bus down to, right down here, right? The Link Central Station, and headed back to Winter Park to see if you can get some more money.
Yeah.
All right, because you still had the ATM card, Jennifer Fulford's ATM card, right? You didn't leave that in the car. You didn't leave that in the field. You kept the ATM card. Remember that?
Well, I mean, no, I didn't bring them there. I left those in the area of the bank.
Remember going to the 7-Eleven, buying this pizza,
Yeah, I remember that.
all right? And then you talked, of course, to the detectives about how much you enjoyed it. Because somebody
Well-
had to die for you to get that.
And yeah, Detective Wagner is losing it at this point, so that's why because I mean they're jerking me around, they're playing games with me, and I'm just giving it right back, and that's what that interview was about.
Mm-hmm.
We were in old Ferraris giving the hand signals, oh, I got you, boy, I got you. We'll take care of them conditions for you, and all that. Of course, he'll never admit to that.
All right. So what you told them, though, about going and getting that pizza and having the thought that somebody had to die for me to get this pizza.
Well, in all reality, that is true. I mean, it is true.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's sad, but it's true.
So now, once you got to Jacksonville, and then ultimately were located by the authorities up there.
It would take a scientist to figure out where I was. I mean, I used my real ID to take a train out of Winter Park to Jacksonville. Notice I didn't cross the line. I stayed within the, I allowed them to catch me. I allowed
You wanted them to.
Yeah.
Which is why you put your face on all those cameras.
No, no,
Because
no, that's
this
not true.
entire,
Not allowing the witness to finish the
I'll sustain the objection, Ms. Burdick, unless you have a non-responsive objection. You need to let the witness finish.
you said no, right?
I never walked around putting my face in cameras that this whole world is full of nowadays. There's cameras everywhere. So I don't care where you stand anywhere, you're going to be on a camera somewhere. No, that it wasn't my intention. I ended up in Jacksonville because I just jumped on a train. I said, what was the next train out of? He said, we got one to Jacksonville, and that's where I went. I didn't go off into Georgia or any other part of the country when I had money to do that. So obviously I didn't abscond. I know about jurisdiction. I know about police investigation. I know a lot. So it's where I ended up. But I also know that how a fugitive task force works, a CAT team, criminal apprehension team. I know how these things work. 25 years in federal custody, you learn a few things, especially sitting in the law libraries 24 hours a day.
All right, so once you got there, you pretty much, aside from your trip to the ATM to try to get more money,
Yes, ma'am.
you stayed close to the train station and waited for their arrival?
Yeah, I did. It wasn't my intent to go around the countryside killing people. I'm out of money. I'm out of gas. That's it. I was hungry. I was starving to death on the streets of Winter Park, one of the richest towns in the Florida. Hungry. Oh, she'd give the shirt off her back. How many times have I heard that in my life? Oh, I'll do that. That's something people like to get high on. They love doing that. Oh, I'd give the shirt off my back. I'd do this, that, and the other. No, you won't. You'll give just enough so it doesn't hurt. No, people don't give a damn about nobody in this world. They don't care. They don't care. If I had knocked on anybody's door and said, hi, I need some food and a place to live, 911. Hey, I need some water. Get out of here, you bum, get a job.
Well, because when you knock on someone's door in Winter Park, you did so with the intent to commit a home invasion.
Oh, Julio Dominguez left me no choice. I mean, 20,
Right, that-
20 I mean,
That was your intent, and
no,
you
the
carried it
federal
out.
the federal government turned me into an animal, and I can prove it. You lock a person in a tent.
non-responsive.
They turned me into an animal, is what they did. They terrorize you. They brutalize you. It's a sick, sadistic game. The penal system in America is a spectacular failure. Nothing works. But everyone that drives by a prison, they glance at it real quick and keep driving. They may shudder, oh, that's it, oh, God, and thank God I'm not there, and keep on a-rolling. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what goes on in there. They'll spend $30,000 a year to keep you in jail, and they won't give you a nickel to keep you out. They turned me into an animal. I've been beaten. I've been chained to beds for days at a rip. I've been locked in cells that are so stifling hot. I have flashbacks to this very day. I've had cockroaches running over my body. This guy rips everything out.
Yet, you did something
What?
that will potentially put you in prison for the rest of your life or on death row.
I couldn't help it. I don't.
You intentionally did something to get yourself back into the prison system.
I'll overrule the objection.
Correct?
Ma'am?
You had not just money as a goal, but to get back into the prison system, right?
No, that wasn't my intent.
It's all about the money then. It's all about the money.
Isn't everything?
Is that a yes?
I had to eat. I'm a human being.
Is that a yes?
You're damn right it's yes.
You remember writing a letter to the state attorney, Aramis Ayala, back on January 3rd of 2018?
Ma'am, I don't remember that. I've written so many letters in my life.
You remember telling her that you knew exactly what you were doing when you committed first-degree murder?
I think I've said that.
All right?
I mean, I don't know about the levels and degrees of homicide. I mean,
You said that you spent many years in the library in prison. So you
I'm not an attorney.
that first-degree premeditated murder is the highest level offense, criminal offense, in the state of Florida.
No, I don't know much about state law. But anyway.
Nevertheless, you, whether you've said it in a letter before, whether you told the police, you're telling this jury that you knew 100% what you were doing when you committed intentional, planned, premeditated murder. Yes or no?
No.
Didn't know. No other questions, John?
Scott Nelson was found guilty of the murder of Jennifer Fulford and sentenced to life in prison without parole. He is serving his sentence at the Santa Rosa Correctional Institution in Florida, where he will remain for the remainder of his life.